guys, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about addressing hip pain and how it typically is coming from glute instability. At home, if you have a lacrosse ball and or a foam roller, you can use either one of these. That lacrosse ball is going to make these exercises a lot more intense. So first thing we're going to talk about are the muscles that we're actually going to be working through. So with the lacrosse ball and the foam roller, we're going to be working through the quad, the hip flexor, as well as the glute med. So that's the side of your glute. So I'm going to have these guys lay on the ground. We're going to start working through that quad itself. So whether you have a foam roller or a lacrosse ball at home, what we're addressing right now is anywhere from the knee all the way up into the hip. Whenever we're working through the quad, it's a lot easier if we divide that quad into 3 sections, thinking above the knee, in the center, and up at the top, and working through each one of those sections for about 30 seconds at a time, totaling a minute and a half to 2 minutes working through each quad. We want nice and slow movements, trying to let that foam roller or lacrosse ball sink in as much as we can. Notice both of them have that other leg up to the side. It's just allowing you to add a little bit more pressure in the quad that we're working through. They would then do the same thing on that other side. Next thing we're going to address is working through the hip flexor. When we're working through the hip flexor, or whether we're using the foam roller or the lacrosse ball, we don't actually want to work in that hip crease directly. We want to work about 1 inch or 2 inches below, and we're going to go up and down anywhere through here. So same thing, laying on your stomach. So the difference with this one and working through the quad is instead of addressing the center of that quad, we're working into the side of the hip flexor or TFL area. If you don't know what that is, type it into Google real quick. It'll pop up for you, and then you'll know specifically where we're trying to work with that lacrosse ball. So into the hip flexor and TFL. When we're working through here, we want to work through here for at least 1 minute at a time so that we're making some kind of change to these muscles and tissues. Anything less than that, we're really not doing much. With that lacrosse ball, which is what Dennis is doing over here on my left, we want to avoid working through that area more than 2 minutes because it's really intense. It can actually aggravate that tissue. They would do the same thing on that other side. Next thing we're going to address is working into your glute med. So we have 2 parts of our glute max, the part that we sit on, and the glute med, the side of the glute. So we're going to work into that glute med. So when we do that, we're going to work onto the side. Yep, exactly. So for Dennis, I'm actually going to have him lay down on his side. This is getting more into your glute max. Yeah, we call this the sexy pose. So this helps get into the side of the glute. Exactly, perfect. This helps get into the side of the glute a little bit more. When we're working in the glute med, you can even just let it sit and hold with that lacrosse ball when you find that really intense spot. You don't necessarily have to have that moving because, again, with that lacrosse ball, it's going to be a lot more intense than working in with that foam roller. So JP is doing a great job here. He's just working into the side of that glute. With the foam roller, you may not feel it as much. So if you have a lacrosse ball at home, it could be a better option to use that lacrosse ball if you're not feeling it much with that foam roller. They would do the same thing on that other side. Again, working at least 1 minute, avoiding over 2 minutes with the lacrosse ball. So the next thing we're going to talk about is actually stabilizing through the glutes and hips. So this is typically the #1 cause of hip pain, is instability through the glute med. We're going to give you a couple different variations. Anytime we're doing any of these variations, we want to make sure that we feel the side of our glute working and not our hip doing the work. So again, we want to feel the burn in the side of that glute and not in the hip. So first option is if you have a band at home, all we're going to do is side-to-side walks. You don't have to do a lot of these. When we go into this position, we want to make sure that our toes are straight and we're driving those knees out. If we point our toes out, now we're just using our hips and not the booty. So from here, just nice and small steps. You do 5 or 10 towards one side, 5 or 10 towards the other. You can repeat this multiple times until we feel the glutes actually activating. If you don't have a band, that's okay. If you have a chair or a box, or you can even do this on your toilet, what we're going to try to do is a single leg squat. So starting in a seated position so that you're comfortable with the depth that you're having to squat, we're going to stand up only using one leg. and slowly lower ourselves back down. When we do this, we want to make sure that that knee is driving out. Same thing, you can do 5 to 10 reps as long as we're feeling the side of that glute activating and not letting that knee cave in. Again, when we do this as well, we want to make sure that we're slowly lowering back, not just falling down. Yeah, that was a bad rep. Okay, if you find that whatever you're using is too low, you can always stack pillows or something underneath so that you can slowly lower back. Another variation, maybe you don't have a stool or a band, is laying on the ground and just doing simple glute bridges. So I'm going to have these guys show me a couple different variations of glute bridges. So laying down. So JP is going to show me a single leg glute bridge, whereas Dennis is going to show me just a regular glute bridge. So pressing that back flat, keeping that core tight, we're going to drive up into that glute bridge, hold for a few seconds, and coming back down. By adding that band on, it's making it a little bit more intense. Same thing, you can do 5 to 10 reps on each side. We want to feel the burn in the side of that glute, and with the regular glute bridge, you may be feeling it in those hamstrings as well. That's totally fine, as long as we're not feeling it in the hips. So again, what we're doing here is addressing hip pain. We're working through all the muscles and tissues that are attaching into there, and then we're trying to strengthen up those glutes to keep that hip from working and doing all the extra work. Hopefully this helps you guys.